Hey everyone, it is Val the Voice Johnson. It's a Thursday, it's a day before a holiday weekend, and I am here on a special day. Normally we do our talk on Tuesdays, but we're doing something a little bit different on this morning. And I want to get into all of that right after I do this. It's a special edition of Interludes Extra, and I am your host, Val the Voice Johnson. Man, oh man, yesterday on July 2nd, there was some things that was happening the on television. And what was I doing yesterday? I was prepping for the weekend. I'm getting ready to travel, so I was excited about that. And just in the middle of my morning, I got some news that kind of disturbed me. Yesterday, Sean Diddy Combs was convicted in federal court for transporting people for prostitution under the Mann Act, a serious crime that could bring up to 20 years in prison for him. But he was acquitted of the most severe and charges: sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. The judge denied him bail, citing a history of domestic violence. And while some in the courtroom celebrated the acquittals, there's a much deeper conversation that we need to have. Because for victims like Cassandra Ventura, many of you know her as Cassie, this verdict is complicated. It acknowledges criminal behavior, but it doesn't validate the most horrifying allegations. And for survivors watching this unfold, it sends a mixed message about how seriously our society takes these claims. Today, I want to ask, what does justice really look like for survivors? How do partial convictions land emotionally for those who have lived through the abuse? And what does this mean for an industry, the entertainment industry, which I still love despite the crazy, has protected power and silence far too long? To help us unpack this, I am so honored to welcome Julienne. Well, she's known as Jules Williams, and she's been doing clinical pastoral counseling for over 2 decades. And she's been walking alongside of those who have experienced all kinds of abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and welcome Jules Williams. How are you this morning?
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me. Um, thank you. I appreciate it, especially for a topic that is very sensitive to a lot of individuals on many levels because of sex trafficking, the accusation of sex trafficking, the experience of it, sexual abuse, rape, prostitution, forced prostitution affects a lot of people in many ways. And I found in the many years of myself working as the clinical pastoral counseling, I've been doing that for 5 years. I am a chaplain, but I've also been a social worker, counselor, a victim advocate. I've been a lot of things in this realm to help people and walk alongside them.
Yeah. And myself and Jules, we talk all the time. We have wonderful conversations. And when I talk we were having this conversation yesterday, and I said, you know what, we need to do a topic about this. And when she agreed, I was thinking, oh my gosh, all you have to do is ask. And I was thinking, yeah, we need to make what we talk about, especially about this, public, because of I have a lot of respect for what you do and how you help victims of sexual abuse and beyond. And so that's why I was thinking it is most appropriate to have this conversation with you about this, because it's a very serious topic. It's very sensitive, especially in my way. I want to start off and just get to some of the questions. Now, of course, all of us know Cassandra Ventura, who's known as Cassie, has long alleged abuse by Combs. From your experience, Jules, from counseling survivors, how do you think she and other victims might feel about seeing these acquittals on some of the most severe charges, but convictions on lesser ones?
From my experience, victims, and I don't like to use the term victim, and I don't
Okay.
use the term survivor, because everyone is not a survivor. Not everyone
Mm.
heals fully, and not everyone is able to live their lives fully. And some victims actually have been known to take their lives because they're just not survivors. I like to use the term experience. So for those who've experienced um, the act of prostitution, trafficking, whatever realm it's in. But from my experience in seeing firsthand and walking along survivors, we'll use that for this segment firsthand. It is rough. It's and I mean that in every aspect of the term, rough. Think of a surface that is hard to go over. Many of these women and men, but we're going to focus on women, experience shame, guilt, fear, trust in themselves is broken because they are not able to trust the decision making, those around them. And a lot of times they are not able to function the way they did initially. A lot of women are able to bounce back, but hearing your attacker uh, talk about you in such a degrading manner and using the law to degrade you and your personality, who you are, your character, and it's live in action. And the media
Right.
sensationalizes things in a way that we can never understand because it's all about, I want views, I want to be the best reporter, I want to be the number one news channel to break the story because I need viewers. But in this
Right.
case, no one wins. No one wins. So I couldn't even imagine what she's feeling, but I know that women who've been in her situation, they have felt that fear, shame, guilt. They are never able to fully trust themselves, even years after that experience. They have been in a position, some have been in positions of power, and even those decision makings in those positions of power are not, now they're not level. Now it's second, third, fourth, fifth, guessing over and over again, looking more and more to other people to help you with your decision making. If they're married, uh, wrestling with your spouse, and I think we were talking about this earlier from a Christian perspective.
Right.
The the healing sometimes doesn't. It never. It never. It never stops. Because think of someone who has sickle cell anemia, who has developed a ulcer on the outside of their leg, so to speak. That ulcer will always be healing and close up and then open, close up and open. And
Mm-hmm.
that many times is what victims, survivors, those who've experienced sexual assault, prostitution, coercion go through on a regular basis. I'm glad that right now, and I hope that Cassie allows herself to go on a road of healing. I don't know what she went through. I will never
Mhm.
know what
Mhm.
someone went through because everyone has a different experience. But
Right.
I do know that it is going to be a long road. And that hurt, that shame, that guilt, just even allowing yourself thinking, okay, maybe someone who did this will get what the law calls justice. But to see that in her eyes, and if it were me, I would feel and think that he is not getting the justice that this justice system here in America has called for.
Yeah. And I think ultimately it just sends the wrong message to folks who have been victimized by their
Mhm.
abusers. Like
Right.
they don't come forward because they're afraid. Number one, they won't be believed. And
Mhm.
number two, if this person is in power, like Diddy was in power, you
Mhm.
don't want to push against the system. There were so many people around Combs just kind of giving him a wink and a nod to his behavior, and no one
Right.
checked him. And I think that's what I'm most disturbed with. There was no one around him to check him and say that's not right. People are some folks are coming forward now, but they're not. I don't think anybody. There was no accountability
Mhm.
into how he treated Cassie or others, many
Right.
others, as we found out during this entire trial. Because I would jump
Mhm.
in and watch, and sometimes not jump in and watch, but it was interesting. Now my other question is, what emotional challenges arise for, and we'll say now, survivors, when a verdict like the one we heard yesterday acknowledges wrongdoing but stops short of validating the full scope of the allegations? Because
Mhm.
you do realize it was 5 counts that he was charged with, but then the sex trafficking part, that was totally not, he was found not guilty.
No. Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
I think one of the main challenges, two main challenges, shock and disbelief
Mhm. Yeah.
and anger. And it's almost the wheel of grief, the grief wheel, using
Okay.
that as a template. It's difficult to accept a verdict like that when you've been exploited, abused, whether it's, whether the person was convicted or acquitted. It's still because you were re exploited when you talk to a doctor. You're re-exploited when you talk to a lawyer. You're re-exploited when your name, your full name, your government name, so to speak, is put out there. You're re-exploited when people know where you live and they're sending messages to you. You're re-exploited when you're on national TV. You're re-exploited when you're in a courtroom and faces of people who, some of them may just work in the courthouse and they just want to see a sensational trial. Now, everyone knows your face wherever you go, no matter where you go, because other countries, oh, certainly, certainly saw this trial because they love music. So
Yeah.
that anger, frustration, those are the main ones. And fear can creep up in there again because fear has a way of creeping into your life when you least expect it. You think everything is okay. You may be sleeping. You may have nightmares, dreams, just a lot of things. And I don't want to use a lot of clinical terms because I want everyone listening to understand what a person may just go through after hearing a verdict like that has
Yeah.
experienced the rape, it's compounded trauma. Using that one clinical term, it is compounded trauma because now everything is rolled up into one, and someone said once to me, a family member, everyone has a breaking point. And
Right.
then someone said to me again that everyone has a breaking point. And it's just, it clicked in my mind that that breaking point is continuing. You never know when someone is going to snap or break. And I don't mean in a violent manner. I just mean who they are, the very structure and foundation, that cornerstone. You know, we in clinical pastoral counseling, we talk about, you know, Jesus is the cornerstone. God is the cornerstone. But that cornerstone is your foundation. And when a person's foundation starts to crack, their integrity is gone.
Yeah.
They can't stand. They need help standing. So that fear, that anger, that mental injury, emotional injury, it's going to be lasting.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize, and I think this is what hurts me the most. You know, I'm old enough to have children in their 30s, their
Mm.
20s and 30s, and there's so many, you know, young believing souls that want to make it. They come to New York, and I did the
Mm.
same thing. I came to New York, and you want to make it. You
Yeah.
want to make it in the entertainment industry. You want to make it in the film industry. You want to make it. You want to make your music. And when it comes down to it, when I think I remember seeing, and I told you this yesterday, I saw Cassie, one of her first music videos,
Yes.
and I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, oh, she just wants to be a singer like, you know, everyone at the time was doing. You know, you had Anne-Marie, you had
Mhm. Oh, wow.
Monica, Veronica, Brandy, all of these young women that look like her, that, you know, want to
Mhm.
perform, want to sing, want to get their message out, entertaining.
Mhm.
The abuse should not be there. In my mind, I don't know about anybody else, but in my mind, I should be focusing on the entertainment or singing or performing because it gives me joy. And I
Right.
think it's almost satanic that I need
Mm.
to strip your soul so I can control you. And when I saw the video, I don't know if you remember seeing the video that was at the hotel with
I do.
Diddy beating her. I was thinking, and she looked weak, and I really couldn't tell. And you know, all of the reports, all of the news things have come out. Oh, he paid for that video never to be shown. But to me, that was the most, I want to call it, visual evidence of the disrespect of, I'm not treating you as a person that has this light in me and wants to entertain. I'm treating you as property.
Mhm.
And that to me is horrible on so many levels. And I hate that so many young people
Right.
have gone through what exactly Cassie had gone through with just trying to do one simple thing, entertain. That's it. So
Think of Roman Polanski and Jack Nicholson.
we talked about that too. Yes, yes.
And people forget that this is not something that's new. This has been happening for years in the
Uh,
industry. So much
yeah,
for Roman Polanski, just he never came back to the United States.
yeah. And that's why I'm grateful that they went ahead and denied bail for Combs. They were waiting to get that information out because I think about 10:45 Eastern time in the
Mhm.
morning they released
Mhm.
the verdicts, but then they were still waiting. And I think Combs' team was, you know, really pushing that he should be able to return home. And I'm thinking, if he returns home, and we talked about this, he
Mhm.
will disappear, just like Roman Polanski, as you mentioned. So
Yeah,
horrible,
and
horrible.
there's so
Yeah,
many people who have been able to leave the United States after, because even for just facing 5 years in prison.
yeah,
Well, that's horrific, and I say horrific because being violated sexually and physically is a horrific experience,
hmm,
and
yeah,
many don't understand that.
yeah. And I think that's why it's a conversation that many people were having across the internet yesterday, just kind of trying to unpack what does this all mean. My next question to you, Jules, is I saw some of the reports. Many supporters in the court cheered for Combs after the verdict. How does this kind of public celebration impact victims' willingness to come forward? I kind of mentioned that earlier, but I was just thinking there was a lot of, I think I saw someone even doing something. They had a t-shirt or they had a sign said "Free Diddy," and I was going, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So what's some of your thoughts on that?
Terror and humiliation are the first words that come to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We joke about, like with my friends who have children, small children, the joke that we talk about is, oh, your kids are terrorizing you this morning. They're coming after you because they're coming after them. And they never let, now, mom, I want this, dad, I want this, I want. And it's almost like they're relentless. Our society, I'm going to say it again, our society has become so numb and so godless today to things that are occurring that they refuse to be attuned and empathetic to others' feelings and emotions. And they behave in a manner as if, and people are going to hate me, people may not like what I have to say, in a manner as if they truly were raised by wolves. Wolves operate in a pack.
Wow.
But the difference between humans and wolves and all animals is that they do things in a terrorizing manner for survival. We do it just to inflict mental, physical, emotional, financial harm on others for our own gain. What purpose did it serve, or does it serve, for you to cheer for someone to get it off? And they were also found guilty for forcing prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
You're cheering for someone who has been found guilty of some form of sex crime, no matter how little you think it is. And I don't know the whole story. I'm not a lawyer. I wasn't there. I'm not God. But I do know that not just Cassie, but another man who had his face shown on TV also experienced this nonsense. But you stand up in a court and you're cheering someone getting off, but it's not you cheering. If you look at the backdrop, you're not really cheering someone getting off. You're cheering because that person who have not put money in your pocket, you put money in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feed you. They're not giving you a job. And if they are giving you a job, shame on you for sticking by someone who is notorious for doing things like that and has shown through behavior and words that they can be violent. It's horrible. It's disgusting. And I would feel re-victimized by that. I'd be terrorized because now they know where she lives. They know where she hangs out. They may know where her family lives. I'm sure they do. And I would be looking over my shoulder on a regular basis. As I walk down the street, I can't walk down the street. Hey, aren't you that girl that got assaulted by Diddy in the elevator? And, how you feel about that? That's rough. People say things like that. They say hurtful things.
Mm-hmm.
Just to do it. Just because. It's terror. And I would have flashbacks on a continual basis if it was made this public.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the major takeaways about this. And I think with trafficking, because I think the jury decided Combs was not guilty of the trafficking side of things.
Mhm,
And Jules, just before the show, you just shared with me some statistics. I want to make sure I'm saying that word right, about
mhm,
trafficking and how serious of a charge that is. And I think I'll start with this one. As we work to help people disproportionately affected by human trafficking, including members of racial and ethnic minorities, women and girls, the LGBTQ plus community, and migrants, we remain committed to the learning from and partnering with survivors to support their
mhm,
recoveries and recruit their help in better spotting and preventing these too often overlooked crimes. And that's from our former president, President Biden. So,
mhm.
your thoughts on that?
It is definitely a work in progress.
Hmm.
Um, and the numbers, though they've gone down over the years, they in 2023, I'm gonna give you a statistic, and a lot of people don't think about that. In 2023, there were only, and I say only, a little over 18,000 people prosecuted, and less than half of those prosecuted were even convicted. They have new
Mm,
legislation now, but that's not helping. People are still doing it. People are still, there have been almost 150,000 victims identified, according to government data. And this is around the world. I I think, and I might be telling my age, but
don't worry about it.
a lot of us don't remember, especially this generation, and it's still going on in Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey used to be the hub for sex trafficking.
What?
It- yes, Camden, New Jersey used to be known as the hub for sex trafficking, and it still is one of the hubs. But I don't know what it is about Camden. I think I think about Screaming Jay Hawkins. I put a spell on you. Maybe maybe that's what's wrong with Camden. But can't
Wow.
I used to drive down to a certain installation going in Philadelphia, and I had to pass through Camden. And every time I went through Camden, I got a horrible feeling about Camden. And this is before people really started getting into sex trafficking, the social media, because Camden is a place where you think, oh, it should be a beautiful place to go. It's at the end of the state, going into Philadelphia, going
Right.
towards Robbins Avenue. But
Hmm.
it's not. It's not. People are being trafficked and taken off the street in the middle of the day. When I was a victim advocate, we had to watch these videos of just how people are being trafficked and prostituted. And it actually they did a study at Harvard University, and at Harvard University fraternity, a specific fraternity, they did a documentary on them, filmed them, and they saw women not as victims, not as human beings, and they said it. The one of the young men described the women that they would rape or pass, as he said, pass back and forth between their buddies as prey. That's what prostitution and sex trafficking and all of this is, prey. And they sell it to our young people as something that's fun. The internet, there are people, if you've ever had issues with your cell phone, these ads pop up or these videos pop up, and they're sex
Right.
videos or they're porn videos, and you're like, how did this get on
Right.
my phone? I was talking to a friend of mine in law enforcement, and they said, oh, if that's popping up on your phone, you have to get this app, you have to have this virus protector, talk to your phone company. Why should I have to do that? Why
Right.
is the entertainment industry, and I'm talking about not just the porn industry, but why is the entertainment industry selling sex as it though it is something to play with, as though there are no consequences?
Right.
Sexually transmitted
Yeah.
diseases. because you were raped in one night by 25 men just to break you in, to make you a prostitute.
Yeah.
Fear and terror because you were in the entertainment business trying to become a celebrity, to hone in on your craft, to become that singer that is celebrated, because I don't believe in stars. The only stars I know in the sky, but that singer who can be celebrated on a regular basis because you bring joy with your voice, with your podcast, with your movies, with your plays, only to be sexually assaulted, demeaned, injured, and it's very injurious.
Yeah.
And now, where do you go from there? Because you don't have any other craft that now you have to rebuild your life. You have to rebuild who you are. And it does take, and some people don't believe this, it really takes, this is a thing that we talk about a lot, and it's called the theology of suffering.
Whoa.
Because you suffer a lot, and people do turn to God to rebuild their lives because God is needed. But that theology of suffering is not just about, I'm going to read my Bible and I'll be healed. No, people suffer on a regular basis. And we don't understand it because we are so busy celebrating the perpetrators.
Ugh.
There was a gospel singer, James Fortune.
Oh, yes.
He didn't rape anybody that we know of, but he abused, he claimed no contest. So in Texas, you can do no, or Georgia, whatever state it was, you can claim no contest. Well, you're not admitting that you did it, but you're not denying that you did it.
Okay.
That way you won't do jail time. That boy was burned severely by what he did on purpose. 5-year-old. But people still free James. James did he didn't do XYZ. He admitted without admitting that he did it. Why are you celebrating him? I actually stopped listening to anything. I had bought a CD or whatever they call DVD of his song. I threw it in the trash.
That's what I did with a lot of my R. Kelly stuff.
Well, or every R. Kelly thing is gone. I don't have any R. Kelly.
No, it's gone.
It's all.
And I think what I'm most frustrated with is there was a quote from Charles Barkley, NBA star who's a commentator now, and he just says, I'm no one's role model. I'm not a role model. I remember him making that quote. And when you are in the public eye and you've done well, you are a role model. Just before everything broke with Cassie bringing I want to call it the charges, not the charges, but the suit against him later in 2023, former New York mayor gave Combs a key to the city. And earlier that year, Combs also received either a lifetime achievement from the BET Awards. Like, you accomplished a lot as a Black man in this country. You are celebrated because what was portrayed to us is that you made all of these stars. And I think you talked about, there's a show called Adam Ruins Everything.
Yeah. I watched it. It was out of control.
Used to love that show. Oh my gosh. I'm thinking to myself, with all of the great music from out of the 90s and 2000s, because I was just out of college, and then I made my way to New York. It's tens of people I can mention. I could probably go into my CD collection and know that a lot of the music that I have came from the bad boy entertainment lane. What you've done and what has come out has damaged, in my mind, permanently damaged the entire brand.
Wow.
It's damaged the entire brand. You did not think beyond whatever you were thinking to know you're going to affect the lives of Carl Thomas. You're going to affect the lives of Faith Evans. You're going to affect the lives of Mary J. Blige. You're going to affect the lives of 112. You're going to affect the lives of the everyone that's worked with you that you've made famous through your company, through your record thing. And for me, I'm so grateful God protected me and blocked, because I think at one point I applied for an internship or something, either at Bad Boy or one of the other record labels, when I was making my way to New York, and I didn't get it.
Yay!
That's exactly. I didn't get it.
You might be a different Valerie.
My goodness. Lastly, I wanted to ask for advocacy for survivors of abuse or sex trafficking. What do you believe advocates in the industry and the public must do now to better protect and believe survivors of sexual exploitation and abuse?
I don't think there are advocates in the industry. To be honest, I don't.
Okay.
There are community advocates that have stood up many times, and they still do. And in the community, who, like I like to say, walk with. You're not helping a survivor. You're walking with that survivor, and that in turn is helping them. But I think that bringing it more to light on a regular basis in a way that is not counterproductive, because even with the Me Too, we love the Me Too, but I think it could have been brought out in a different way instead of hashtag Me Too. Again, you're bringing social media to it, and now it was done in a way where it could easily have become a butt of jokes, and it did. A lot of comedians came in and stepped in, but I'm talking about not just saying Me Too, wearing a T-shirt Me Too, commentating about it, doing a commentary about it, talking about it, having talks with the industry. You should be able to recognize this when your celebrity singer, movie star is going through this, and keep them accountable for everything that they're going through. Okay, grown folk, but help these individuals see that if someone offers you, I know that in the military, they taught us, you go to drink, you turn your back on even if it's a glass of water, don't drink it. That's it.
Be careful.
Yeah. You ask the waitress, can you bring me another glass of water? And I'm going to finish it. And you watch the person that you're with, if you're with someone, because that individual could easily slip something into your drink. If you taste it and it tastes funny, stop drinking it immediately. Go to the manager. I need you to call 911. I'm with someone. I feel funny. And it may sound crazy, but I'm on the first date. My speech is slurring. Please call 911. I do not want to go home with this individual. Please call the cops, please. I need to be taken to the hospital. But entertainment has been long celebrated as producing money. Money talks. You turn your back, I'll get you a car. You turn your back, I'll keep you in the industry and you can make more money. You turn your back, I'll get you the nice house that you wanted. You turn your back, I'll set you up with this female. Because why? Sex sells. Men want to have sex. And they'll just sleep. There was a celebrity basketball player, Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh boy.
And he slept with more women than I know he mentioned. And it was hundreds. And I believe it's probably thousands.
Yeah.
Hundreds at a time when people weren't even using protection. We are celebrating an industry that refuses to acknowledge that we need victim advocacy. The courts are doing a lot. RAIN is doing an amazing job, organizations like RAIN. But there's so many more things that we can do in our society, in our community. There are clinics who are doing more than hospitals. Hospitals should be doing more, providing in their hospital clinics, not outside clinics, in inner cities, because a lot of these artists come from inner cities, to teach them that they are more valuable than 500, 5,000, 50,000, or any any type of contract or TV series. Your
There
body,
you go.
your mind, your spirit, your soul. And we're just not doing that. I think victims and victim advocacy could really reach deeper and do fundraisers with the entertainment community to help survivors or help those who experience prostitution, sex trafficking, sexual abuse, especially by the celebrity community, and not celebrate these celebrities who are raping our women, especially in the community of color, the Black
Yeah.
community, the brown community.
hmm Yeah. And I think with more advocacy and we know what to look for, then we can prevent someone being either sex trafficked or prostituted. Like that can stop with that. And of course, I want to make sure if you've been a victim of sex trafficking, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And that's at 1-888-373-7888. Or you can live chat humantraffickinghotline.org. And I saw a reel on, I think it was Redman. We know Method Man, Redman, they performed. And so he did a whole video on TikTok. If you see a van roll up on you, call for help. Like he went through this whole step-by-step thing to avoid being trafficked. And I was thinking, yes, we need more people like Redman to step up, do videos like that, and put it out there. Like he said, these are the warning signs. If someone either flashes their lights, or if they slow down and they bump your car, move to safety. And he just did this whole video, and I was like, congratulations. We need, especially men, we need more
Right.
men to protect our girls, to step up and be advocates, to say, no, not on my watch. Because definitely
Right.
that's what Redman said. He said, nope, this is what I'm going to tell you to do. And this should not be happening. But if it happens, if you see this van, if this action happens, be careful. And I was like, yes.
Because it's real. It's real. When I go to the store, I don't park near any van that's already parked there. And I try to park as close to the entrance as possible.
You have to. You have to protect yourself. And here's the thing: some people think that sex trafficking victims are young.
Oh no. Sex trafficking victims. I was watching a victim, or an individual, and she doesn't see herself as a victim. She was 35 years old when she was trafficked. And it was an entire ring. I won't say where it was. We could talk about that offline. But she was 35 years old when she was trafficked and forced to prostitute herself, beaten, pistol whipped, shot. She got healed. She didn't get healed from the gunshot wound from a normal hospital. They have doctors who are working with these rings, and that doctor patched her up till they get back on the street. We're going to kill your kids if you don't stop. We know exactly where you live. They had a driver's license and everything.
Wow.
And then when they caught the ring, she was arrested. Now she has a record for prostitution. Advocacy needs to work more with law enforcement to put it in law enforcement's head that when someone is kidnapped off the street or some young girl meets some man who says that they're going to take them away from their poverty and then they take them to a hotel room. And like I said before, they're raped by 5, 10, 20, 30 men in one night, beaten into submission and put out on the street. That's not voluntary. Advocacy and law enforcement need to, and the courts need to work more with those who experience it to really truly understand, because they say they know what's going on. They don't understand it, because if that was the case, that woman would not have been given a criminal record. She would have been given help. They didn't even help her.
So, and that goes back to believing the victims of what has happened, because I think the prosecution with the Combs case, they weren't really able, they didn't present enough evidence of the sex trafficking ring and then also the RICO charges, because it just didn't, they just didn't have the proof. And I was thinking, I said, but the behavior was there. And then of course, all of the accusations of, you know, what has Diddy done regarding, you know, if someone didn't agree with what he wanted done, what would happen to that person? You know, so it's kind of that wasn't proven. And I think there's a fear because of the of whatever that retaliation, because since this has been going on for decades, victims or survivors will continue to be silenced until we have more advocates, more male advocates, more advocates that work in law enforcement to help. And as we go ahead and wrap up, I definitely want to make sure that thank you guys for tuning in for this conversation with my good friend Julesz Julesz Williams. They're saying Combs, and this is according to the New York Times, he still faces a potential sentence as much as 20 years in prison for the 2 prostitution charges that he was found guilty of. He might face a life sentence. Under the transportation charges set by the federal Mann Act, each of the 2 convictions carries a maximum of 10 years, and the judge could set lesser sentences to run concurrently. But now that we know that he will not be getting out on bail for either time served or for him to come back and get sentencing, because I'm grateful that the judge decided, no, stay where you are, don't come home. If they had allowed that, I think he would have disappeared like many other folks who were getting ready to be sentenced, and they're like, no, we'll release you on your own recognizance or whatever, and then they disappear and go to a country that they can't be extradited from. But he has been at the Metropolitan Detention Center, this is Combs, in Brooklyn since September of 2024 with his arrest. So he'll be, I don't know when exactly he'll be sentenced, but I'll be listening out for that. And like I said, we need to make sure that we pray for women and men who have been sexually violated, abused, and or trafficked. And the information about, if you know someone or if it's you, please call or go to humantraffickinghotline.org. And myself and Julesz, I want to consider myself an advocate. I know you consider yourself an advocate. You work in this. And for us, I'm grateful. I believe when Cassie's husband testified, I believe he was in tears when he found out some of the things he probably knew, but then it was being testified what had happened to his wife. And I believe he said he leaned on God for a lot of his strength to help himself as well as Cassie. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we lean on God's strength and help when it comes to this, because it's demonic. It's not of God. Any of this, it's not of God. And we have got to, especially if folks who are believers, let me talk to my believers for a second. Someone tells you that they have been abused, don't talk about them, get them help, get them counseling, help them see someone like a Julesz or like people in the organization of RAIN. Any other closing thoughts that you'd like to share, Julesz?
I think we're all advocates. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just me. I don't do it full time anymore. I don't do it part time anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
as a job or as an additional duty. Um, but we are all advocates. And like you said before, if you see someone who's going through and you know someone, don't just sit back, listen. A lot of times, yeah, people say, I just need someone to listen to me. Oh, because that is a snowball effect and a disaster waiting to happen because that person can still be going through it on a regular basis. Advocate as a sister, a brother, a friend, a stranger, for anyone you know who's going through um, these experiences: rape, sex trafficking, prostitution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, you may be helping to save someone's life and their stability and who they are and helping them to rebuild. It won't be the same, but they can rebuild themselves. They can lean in, like Cassie's husband, they can lean into God and be rebuilt. So please, please don't just sit by and do nothing. Advocate more on Capitol Hill, advocate more in your state's legislative bodies. This way, we know that we can really focus on healing.
Yeah. And I think healing is what is going to help us get through the darkness of the night so that we can see the light. Julesz Williams,
Lord
thank you
comes in
so
the
very
morning.
much for
You're
joining
welcome.
me. Thank you so much for
I
joining me on
enjoy.
today.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
grateful that we made our conversation public.
Yes, ma'am. I, I wasn't even thinking about it either. I was taking my afternoon walk. As you know, I take my afternoon walks.
Mhm. And I say continue to be an advocate for our girls, our boys, our
Mhm.
men, our women. And let's be, if for myself that love entertainment, I'm still gonna love entertainment, but I'm just gonna be like this now. Making sure that we do it. But of course, thank you guys for joining us on today. And of course, for a special edition of Interludes Extra, join myself and Coach on Tuesdays for Interludes Extra Presents Talk on Tuesdays. But for now, we'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace.